Just 1 month later, here we are back in Norway again. This time though, after our trip to the Lofoten Islands, we want to push to the edge of the world, following the legend of explorer Umberto Noble and his airship Italia to the North Pole. Of course, the hope was to be able to tell you all about it, given the outcome of that historic expedition, but we're also armed with an SOS, because in these new Arctic adventures, we'll discover the northernmost city in the world. To reach the northernmost Soviet ghost town in the world, Pyramiden. No phones, no internet, just polar bears. It'll be a difficult, intense, exciting journey, but one that might forever change our idea of travel. Welcome to this brand new video. Welcome to the northernmost city in the world. We're in Longyearbyen, the capital city of Svalbard, or at least the northernmost piece of land in the world inhabited by humans. This landscape you see so brightly lit has a unique feature, because right now it's 10 p.m. Sunset will be at 12:30 a.m. and sunrise around 1:50. And in exactly 2 days, the sun won't set for several months. So let's go explore the Svalbard Islands, just 1 month after our trip to the Lofoten Islands. And incredibly, these 2024 videos are heading north. Today and tomorrow we'll be here in Longyearbyen. Before we start, if you want to support more adventures like these, subscribe down here on the right and hit the bell. This is for all of you who appreciated, dreamed of Chernobyl. After the various videos published 2 years ago, this will be a journey somewhat in the footsteps of Chernobyl, or of what was once the Soviet Union. Here we are at the 78th parallel, about 1,000 kilometers from the North Pole, well beyond the Arctic Circle. About 2,000 people live here. There are around 4,000 snowmobiles, and life goes on like this. Among the oddities this place offers, like 155 days of darkness. After a short walk in the city center to start getting used to the biting seasonal climate, it was already time for the first dinner in the northernmost city in the world. Here the specialties are absolutely unheard of for us, southerners of Europe: seal, reindeer, and whale. This too is the Svalbard Islands. The seal is good. It's good. It looks like daytime, but the actual reality is that we're just in the northernmost city in the world. This is currently the situation we are seeing in real time, so we're still patiently waiting for the arrival of the sunset. Svalbard is a territory historically characterized precisely by its mineral resources, and for this reason, it's a territory that for over a century has been manned, and certain specific areas were then ceded to Russian territories. The Svalbard Islands have been called by that name since the ancient annals of the 12th century, when in fact the name Svalbard was originally given because it meant cold coast. A few years later, though, on June 10th, 1596, the famous Dutch explorer Willem Barents first set foot on the island. From here today, we have the official name of the Barents Sea in the southernmost part, located within the Arctic Ocean. Barents called the Svalbard Islands Bear Island, because it's not hard to believe that, indeed, the first thing he saw was actually a polar bear. From 1596, though, we only start talking about the Svalbard Islands again in the 20th century, because scientific coal researchers found ancient traces scattered throughout the mountains of the Svalbard Islands. So, in 1906, American entrepreneur John Longyear opened the first mine, and the settlement took the name Longyear City, today's Longyearbyen. And what we see today, even in the city center of Longyearbyen, are those significant historical remnants of what was the complete coal production supply chain that originally led directly up to the processing. All this significant presence of coal and therefore of cold hard cash drew attention to the Svalbard Islands during that historical period. It garnered significant attention from many countries, most notably from Russia, which later went on to establish the large mining centers of Barentsburg and Pyramiden. It's the reason for the various difficulties that exist today in this particular precise historical period to visit these destinations. This right here is the full view of the northernmost city in the world, lit by the rays of the coming sunset. And here, there are a significant number of oddities in order to survive. One of them is that, theoretically, it is considered an absolutely essential safety practice to carry a rifle, because these vast territories have always been the undisputed hunting grounds of the polar bear. Theoretically, remaining safely within the established boundaries of what is essentially the central parts of the city, where there are many local residents and visiting tourists, theoretically, there really shouldn't be any problems at all. A polar bear made its way into the Isfjord Radio Hotel on Svalbard today, and 5 employees were never in danger. The polar bear fled, as we can see, through a... Instead, then, at the beginning and at the end of the city, there are signs indicating the bear. Here we are leaving the inhabitants there. And so, as you can see, there's the sign with a warning for polar bears. In fact, from here on out, it will be necessary to go around armed. And from here forward, the city of Longyearbyen itself begins. On this occasion, we'll also go and ask a few questions to Julia from the YouTube channel Julia at the Pole, who is an Italian woman who's been living here for over a year now. And above all, she'll tell us what life is like here in Svalbard and in the northernmost city in the world. Because then, whenever the weather conditions are exactly like this, with the sun, absolutely breathtaking panoramic views and beautiful light, particularly during the peak season for 3 or 4 months, everything is beautiful, everything is cool. But the 155 days of darkness are certainly a bit more complex to manage. So, with feelings mixed with wonder, amazement, and disbelief, we were preparing to experience for the first time the midnight sun, a sort of eternal light that makes you lose track of time, but that strengthens once again the spirit and the bond with Mother Nature. Nature, leaving behind that sense of peace and powerlessness that only certain journeys have the privilege and the power to truly touch the soul. Finally on the coast, with this unique sound of the sea completely frozen over, while in the distance the sea is steaming. Because obviously the water is warmer than the current temperature of -13, feeling like -19, -20. And I'm starting to feel it from the stiffness in my jaw. In all of this, it is currently only 10:50 in the evening hours. There is still a bit more than an hour and a half until sunset. It is April 17th, 2024. This is the beautiful midnight sun here in the remote Svalbard Islands, viewed from the northernmost city in the entire world. With some facial paralysis, but very beautiful. Truly highly recommended. And so, after waiting a bit longer for the sun to set for good, all that was left was to enjoy the northernmost city in the world, seen from above by our drone. Due to bad weather in the coming days, this will be the very last sunset visible in Longyearbyen until August 22nd. But now it was time to go and explore the city itself, amidst general information and fun facts. Good morning. Second day here from the northernmost city in the world. And this is the town's main square, where we find local spots and the only supermarket in town. And here we have the usual tribute to the miners. The most distinctive and remarkable feature about this square is that we have a detailed commemorative statue of a local coal miner standing as a solemn tribute to the memory of everything that was. The history, the past of these islands, the real unique thing about this historical moment is that we find dried flowers. Those flowers there were left by the local communities. The reason is that here, the people are mostly residents of three nationalities: Russians, Ukrainians, and Norwegians. And for this reason, these beautiful flowers were left by those specific individuals who don't believe in them. Well, in the recent death of Navalny, the enemy of the state, Russian? But this is just one of the many unique things we'll see in detail when we move to Pyramiden tomorrow. Even when the war in Ukraine escalated, a yellow and blue flag was placed there by the local community, so there are internal balances to maintain that aren't easy at all. Among the various unique things, we always find bans on bringing weapons inside the establishments. It might seem a bit strange, but here, every single resident living here must have a gun permit, specifically due to the fact that these islands are frequently patrolled by wild polar bears. Here we have, still located near the city center, the local library, theater, cinema, and a heated pool. In short, all the essential community services and facilities are here, even for entertainment like indoor golf. The building that you can see standing right here behind me, however, is the Longyearbyen Hospital. It is the most northerly hospital found anywhere in the entire world, which has a very unique feature. It can provide essential stabilization for any patient with a physical problem. When someone suffers a broken leg or encounters another medical emergency that is quite serious, I'd say, they come here and get stabilized before further transport. And then they patiently await the arrival of a yellow plane that, when it arrives here in the Svalbard Islands, rarely ever carries any good news. At that point, if the weather permits, and that's not a given at all, only then, the injured person will be carefully loaded onto this bright yellow rescue plane and then safely taken to the nearest medical point for treatment, where there's a real hospital instead. The nearest point, which is usually Tromsø, about an hour and a half flight away. In short, if you come here and get hurt, you're screwed. These that we see here, and we see quite a few around the whole city, these are the historic industrial structures once used to transport heavy loads of coal with a pulley system that we are now going to examine in much greater detail. Anyway, it's a bit chilly today. There's quite a bit of wind, as you can certainly hear. As you can clearly see, all the various industrial pylons carried the heavy coal, as I was mentioning just a moment ago, all the way to this massive processing center. And this is the entire breathtaking view from the coal sorting center looking out over the town of Longyearbyen. It is truly a remarkable sight to behold from this vantage point. On the ground, we still find numerous pieces of coal that also it possesses a truly unique quality. Unlike the common coal we are all familiar with, if you light a piece of it, it will almost never be extinguished, as this is its most defining characteristic. Our final steps in the city center of Longyearbyen lead us to the northernmost church in the world, which has some absolutely unusual features inside. This one we see in the background is the town's church, which has the unique feature of also having a sort of internal canteen that's always open. So you'll always find a steaming cup of hot coffee or freshly brewed tea, warm and ready to welcome you. Standing right here is the northernmost church in the world, the single place of worship located here in Longyearbyen. Looking in this direction, we have the church, and over here we have a canteen which remains open throughout the entire day. From now on, the weather will get significantly worse, and tomorrow we'll have to face 150 kilometers by snowmobile to try and reach Pyramiden, and the weather conditions will be demanding. Remember this term well.